You'll just know
Bring
when
the
it
phone
happens.
or bring the camera.
Yep.
No. What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Radio, episode 40, the Vinny LeCavalier episode of season 5. I'm your host, Jim Iacovone, joined as always by Jack Smith and boy wonder Travis Ballinghoff. If you're listening live if you're listening live on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and set an alert for future shows. If you're listening as a podcast, make sure to listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe as a podcast. Find all of our social media links in one place, hoo.be/HW Hockey, or head over to our site, hwhockey.net. Mark Ramos just put out another Flyers line article. I think he covered the second line, so some good stuff there. We'll be talking lines next episode. We'll tease that a little bit. We'll have some fun when we get there. But for today's episode, it's the middle of July, right? So we're kind of scratching for topics, and we scratched up a couple good ones for you. Maybe we have a game or two we'll play. But first, let's get to the facts, some of the news here. Breaking news today. And I'm going to try to say it right, Trav, all right? God forbid. Do you know the correct way to pronunciate his name?
In French, they say Gendron.
Is it Alexi?
Yes.
Alexi
Gendron.
Gendron. Yeah. All right. Flyers signed to a 3-year ELC today. In somewhat surprising news, I think, a 2022 7th-round pick of the Philadelphia Flyers, Gendron, scored 55 goals during the regular season this year between, I'm not even going to try to say the one team's name. It's Blainville Boisbriand. And then he played the other half of the season for the Gatineau Olympiques. 55 regular season goals and added 13 more it was 14 more goals in 13 playoff games. So it didn't stop for Gendron. Interesting signing there. He drafted just last year. This isn't a guy that's been cooking. They drafted him last season. His father is a scout with the Flyers. I believe he's located in Montreal. Quick little funny story there. He was actually telling the Flyers to not draft this kid.
Yikes.
He didn't want there to be that tie, I think. This is what he said anyways. He didn't want there to be that nepotism thing there. He wanted it to look like, he did everything on his own, yada, yada, which was cool. I could kind of understand that. At the same time, you have an opportunity, have your son in the same organization. On the flip side, I think that'd be pretty cool. But I want to ask you guys, Trev, thoughts on this signing? Are you a little surprised by the quick ELC, or what did you think of Gendron?
Well, you know who else played for the Gatineau Olympique?
Yeah, I do.
Is he the next Claude Giroux? Nah, I'm kidding. I mean, the guy's put up some numbers. Now he's a 7th-round pick. Is he going to be able to keep that up, and will it translate to the pro level? I have no idea, but he's off to a pretty good start in his career. I got to give him that. So I don't know. I'm intrigued. He seems like something might be there.
And he's only 19 years old. He turned 19 during the season in December. So it's not like he's one of these, big time overager kids. And he scored 30 goals the year before in 21-22. So it's not like this is something that came out of nowhere. He built on a successful second season in the QMJHL by potting 55. So they may have a diamond in the rough here, Jack. What do you think?
What more can you ask for a 7th-round pick? I mean, it's exactly what you want to see. Now, are they quick to sign him? I guess. But, this is the time to take these kind of shots on young players. This is where we're at. There's no need to do anything immediately. Just see what you have. And I keep looking at it as such a lottery ticket, but it's not the first time we've heard of stories like this. It's about time that happens for the Flyers. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm very excited. What else can you expect from a 7th-rounder? I will take that all day. And yeah, his numbers for being a 7th-rounder are a little eye-popping, so that's very nice as well.
Yeah, I mean, 55 goals is 55 goals, right? That's kind of the way I looked at it the same way. All right, 7th-round pick, so level expectations, I guess. But I got to watch him play a couple games towards the end of the year and then in the playoffs, and he just finds the net. The puck finds him. He's one of those guys. Puts himself in position to score. Obviously, a very offensive-minded player, and that's okay. I don't think you can ever have too many of those guys. It looks like the Flyers are building a team based off offensive players. Will he have a spot on the Flyers roster? I don't know. Maybe plays with the fan. I'm thinking he's going to play with the Phantoms. They need players too, right? It's good if you're building up a pipeline. You need reliable players to call up when there's injury, and that's how I'm looking at Gendron right now. Hopefully the success continues, but we saw Elliot Denoyer score a bunch of goals in the Canadian hockey leagues, play a year or two with the Phantoms, did decently there, and he's going to contend for a spot with the Flyers potentially.
Was last year his age 19 season, or is that this upcoming season?
So this coming December, he'll turn 20.
Okay.
So he turned 19 in the middle of last year. So, yeah, he's a kid. He's younger than you, Trav, somehow.
Stud.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. The Flyers are hitting on some kids in the later rounds, which is what they needed to do. And they did it while Fletcher was here somehow. So some credit there. I mean, that was probably Brent Flair, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
give him
scouts.
credit.
One of the scouts.
Yeah. Maybe his dad. He had to come out with that story just so nobody caught on.
Yep.
All right. In other news, Tony DeAngelo, obviously we talked in earlier shows that he was waived and eventually bought out by the Philadelphia Flyers. And we've speculated on this show seemingly for months that he wanted to go back to Carolina, and Carolina kind of wanted him back. Couldn't work out a deal. The NHL rules for that whole circumventing the salary cap thing is quite frankly bullshit. Not that it's a huge thing that the Flyers missed out on a perceived asset, right? But now the Flyers ended up having to they took an opportunity to buy out DeAngelo. Now he's on the books for 2 years now?
Yes.
When they could have just got it all off in one foul swoop, yada, yada. Long story short, Tony DeAngelo eventually, I think it's about 2 weeks later now, signs with the Carolina Hurricanes for 1 year, $1.6 million. And he's doing okay financially. He's getting paid by the Flyers. I think he may still be getting paid by the Rangers. I have to go double check that. But
yeah, they are.
So he's getting paid by 3 teams right now, Tony DeAngelo. He's I know he's only getting 1 and 2 year deals, but he's making out all right. Tony DeAngelo is doing okay financially, if anybody out there was wondering or worried. Jack, do you have any thoughts on Carolina picking him up for cheap a year after Fletcher gives up 3 assets and signs him to a 2-year, $10 million contract?
My God, you just know a good GM when you see one, I guess, calling bluffs and making other guys look stupid. Yeah, I mean, it's when they were originally trading for them, I couldn't help but think why, just play some things out. Everybody, cap space is such an asset. So teams might be trying to free what they can up. Keep keep your ear out. If you're interested in a player and you find out he's not interested in playing with the current coach he's with, it's well, do we really have to give up an asset here? We just wait this out. And because they obviously have more inside information than the fans do. And yeah, and I always say this about players like this, like your Ghosts and players of that nature. They're good to have. They can be on championship winning teams, but they're not guys who wind up anchoring your D and you sign to this big money. And while he never got the years with the Flyers, $5 million, he's just not effective at that number. And sure enough, he's back with Carolina making not even double than what he was making the first time. So, yeah, it never made any sense for Fletcher to give up the assets based on where the team was. And if you're looking to propel your team forward, to go all in on a one-dimensional player like that, it's just silly.
Yeah.
But he makes perfect sense for Carolina because they have the entire foundation of a good team. He's a complimentary piece at this point.
The funny thing is they sign him twice for a season apiece, both for less than $2 million. $1 million the first contract, 1.6 the second. And the crazy thing is they give him 1.6 a year after the Flyers give him $5 million a season. It just I'm a little baffled by that. Like, how does he not get more from Carolina unless he's like, well, I better take what I can get here. I just got cut for the second time or bought out for the second time. I am getting paid by the Rangers and the Flyers. So, yeah, I'll take another 1-year deal for 1.6. Trav, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just looked it up, and the Rangers are no longer paying him. That ended this past season. That just ended. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of, if you've been listening for a while, this was the worst kept secret on High and Wide. This has kind of been known for a while. There's been mutual interest there. I don't know. He's had such an inconsistent career. It's like, well, 1 year the positives do outweigh the negatives. The next year the positives don't outweigh the negatives. And I guess he's kind of had, some luck in certain years, some luck or some bad luck, like he did this past offseason. So I don't know. As far as the signing goes, I think it's going to work out. Who knows who he plays with, if that's Orlov or he goes back with Slavin, like he did his 1 year there. But I think that Rod Brindamore system fits him well. And Roddy's one of them coaches where, like, he's very he may be the most friendly player coach in the league, but at the same time, he's so passionate. And I think that works well with Tony.
Yeah, I could see that. That's kind of how I was hoping things were going to play out with Tortorella. But it could be. So I remember before the season, I think we talked about it, that DeAngelo and Tortorella are sometimes you can be too alike personality-wise. Where if you're stubborn and maybe a little hard-headed, things got to be your way kind of thing, you butt heads. And maybe they didn't have time to figure it out, or maybe they didn't want to figure it out. I think once you get that contract, you don't really have to do anything. You're making $10 million, and what are they going to do? They can't take it away from you. So,
yeah, Jim, I will say, and I'm just curious to your thoughts on this. What I'm saying, I get on the Tortorella stuff, but like for a player like DeAngelo, though, it needs to be like a structured system like Carolina for it to work. I don't think you could pluck him off his team and put him with an organization in the dumps and hope that he's going to help bring that team out of it. He's a piece you add after you already have the foundations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a lot of it is his play style. And the reason why Ghost, I think, what did he get, 4.5 for like a year? And Tony only got 1.6. When it comes to this position and how one-dimensional they can be, but valuable because of the power play, a lot has to do with momentum. Ghost looked good this year. Ghost got traded to a contender, and he was in the Eastern Conference Finals. DeAngelo opted in for the money, played with one of the worst teams in the league, was terrible, bashed with his coach. That does not equal money. Like his momentum was down, Ghost's was up. Look at the difference in the contracts they got, although both very similar on length. But like you can see, Ghost had a good year. He got $4.5 million. DeAngelo got a terrible year, got balled out, and got below $2 million. And that's what I think this position is when you go looking for these guys, and they both be moved. Probably not DeAngelo because he's with a contender already, but like you figure that's exactly what's going to happen with Ghost.
You're muted.
Sorry. This whole thing was weird from the start, right? Like since the trade, it's been weird. And the fact that they caught him a year later was weird. And then the fact that Carolina re-signed him after a year to a $1.6 million one-year deal was weird too.
They're a smart organization. They know you do not sign a guy like that for that kind of money.
Yeah, it's like they have a cap hit and a value. They know I'm not paying that guy more than whatever we think he's worth. We're not going over that. And if he wants more, you're gone. It's that simple.
And you say, let somebody else make that mistake. Yep. And here comes Chuck Fletcher. And sure enough, look what happens.
Can you do that laugh again, Jack? Yeah, pretty much. Man, I'm glad that guy's not here.
Who, Chucky?
Yeah, I'm glad he's not here anymore.
You think he gets another head job?
Nah,
Yeah,
not anytime soon. I thought it was a little odd that even they had him on the
Sports
draft show. Yeah, Sportsnet. Like
Very strange.
he doesn't really have a TV personality. He's pretty at least what we're allowed to see from him. He's pretty he doesn't really have
Boring.
a huge personality. Yeah, he's a little boring.
He just has GM attached to his name, so having a guy like that on, like, oh my god, the fans are going to think they're getting an inside scoop. This is great.
He probably really is a good guy, and they were like, oh, how can we help him out, because this could be the end.
Oh,
you know?
I agree with that to an extent. Sure.
Okay, so let's move along a little bit here. Sort of one of our bigger topics for this show is Morgan Frost still unsigned. I had heard a couple weeks ago that things were close, followed by all they need to do is work out the dollars and the term.
Yeah. So they knew they had interest in each other.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So that's what I was told there, and the only reason I don't get into the whole Twitter thing on Morgan Frost. I just don't have it in me. It's July. Do you know what I mean? And if it was in season, sure, I could feed into that. But it's July. I'm not going to get into a Morgan Frost argument on Twitter one way or the other. But I've been kind of keeping track a little bit about what's happening. And apparently there are people out there that would sign him long-term already. Have you guys seen any of that on your timeline?
A couple of those goofball ones, and the money was like, I think it was at least $5 million. I was like, what have you seen in this guy that makes you believe consistency is a part of that? Where you're just like, yep, lock him up. Like, that blows my mind.
See, that's when you go on NHL 23 and you see he's got green top 6 potential and he's 24, 23, whatever he is. It's like, okay, he's got 4 years to grow. We could sign him to a 5-year deal and have nothing to worry about. I kind of think that's what that is.
And then you play as him and make him as good as he should be. You control your God.
We had
I'm just like, how do you where does that confidence come from? I don't understand it.
I wonder if some of it's just like, you wonder, okay, well, the Flyers aren't going to be competitive for a little bit. Maybe you take a risk on a guy where, like, okay, if you sign him for 6 years, $5 million, you're getting him at a little cheap. Like, kind of remember what they did with Joel a couple years ago, where, like, okay, right now he's not worth $5 million, but in 2 or 3 years, maybe he'll be worth more than $5 million, and we can get a good deal on him. I wonder if that's some people's thought process on Morgan. I'm not sure. I haven't asked anybody because I don't agree with it. But maybe that's where they're coming from.
It could definitely be something like that. Although I hope they remember the difference between Frost and Farabee. Farabee was pretty good right off the bat, blew right by Frost. Remember, he was drafted later. But that, and I think it's and I call it the Roman Josi effect, where you're getting a guy for like really undervalued, kind of like TK now, if you think about the money, for like a really good deal. But like, think about all the players that have been named that have been signed long term like that we've just said in this conversation. Like, TK was a lot better than Frost when they signed him. Obviously, so was Roman Josi. Like, I've seen half a season of Frost turning it up a notch where there was nobody left for him to have to beat out. He just kind of finally put it together with some players, and it was such a small sample size and so many meaningless games. And look, if you're going to sign this kind of money, I will bring up the fact that a lot of those games were against bottom dwellers like Arizona, which we brought up many times. So, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying, like, how could you be that confident to do that now based on the very small sample size you've seen? And this guy screams bridge deal. I don't know what they're talking about, but if I'm going to take a risk on a guy and sign him long term, it's not Morgan Frost. That's the easiest way to get bit.
Yeah, I think he's the last guy you want to kind of lock up long term. He's the ideal bridge guy, where if he outperforms the bridge, outstanding, right? That's what you want. You want a guy to outperform the bridge. That's why you can sign him long term. I think there's less risk on that side. Whereas if you do give him a long-term deal, there's risk that you get burned, and that to me is what makes the difference in, do we bridge him? Do we sign him long-term? It's not that I'm not confident that he can be good. But there's more of a safety net for you're covering your own butt if you give him the bridge deal. So, and I think the Flyers are in a position where they need to do that these next couple of years. They can't just be handing out contracts and money if things are going to be different. So
let's go.
What is it? Tell me.
Bryce Harper dinger.
Solo?
Yep.
Tie game?
Yes, sir.
All right.
About time. Nobody can get on base for him now, eh?
Top of the lineup, struggling.
Is Turner playing?
Yeah.
Man, that guy needs a break.
Two strikeouts tonight.
Dude, he needs to maybe sit out a series. But I digress. All right, so yeah, Morgan Frost. That was one of our hot topics of the episode. Yeah, like I said, I can't find it within myself to pretend to get upset about, or get passionate about a Morgan Frost contract talk. There's a lot of great points on Twitter. I'd recommend following Anthony Chapman or Joel Cania. They make great points about Morgan Frost on Twitter. And let's move along here a little bit. So
let me cut you off real quick.
Go ahead.
We talk a lot about Morgan Frost on this show. We've done it for many months now, I guess since the second half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
You should go check out some of them former episodes. We talk about him a lot.
Yeah, we do. So much so that we were like, oh, man, we got to talk about Morgan Frost again.
He
but
is
yeah,
polarizing for where he is on the hierarchy of the team players.
Yeah, it's just
he has a long time, man.
He has so many fans and so many haters, and it's like there's not many people in between. It's like I'm okay with Morgan Frost. It's like you go on Twitter, it's I love Morgan Frost or I hate Morgan Frost, and there's nothing in between. That's what it seems like it is on Twitter.
Oh, there's been some writers I've seen get reprimanded for going too hard one way, and it's interesting. He's tied to the Shen trade. He's tied to Hextall. And it's been a long time, and then he starts to show you a thing or two. That's what it is. He always got a little dabble or something. Remember his first goal ever?
How my
fancy
God,
that was!
Top Chevy on Bob.
Certain people became fans that night and have not stopped. That's kind of what Travis is alluding to. So anything he does great is just more fire. And then on the other end, you got the haters who are like, you see, just anything he's gone through, being sent down. There was a little thing going around that he wasn't really giving it his all at some point. I think he was supposed to report to the training center. He chose not to, but there was COVID going on. It's been way too much for this guy. For how old is he? 23? Yeah. Geez, I really hope it works out because it feels like I'm already exhausted and he's about to sign his bridge deal.
Yep.
What would you guys have needed to see this past season from Frost to be comfortable signing to a longer term deal instead of a bridge deal? And I'm not talking I would have needed to see 60, 70 points. What is it about his game that you're not confident signing him long term yet? When you watch him play, obviously, well, I don't want to cloud anybody's judgment here, but Jack, when you watch him play, what do you need to see more of that would make you feel more comfortable giving him a longer term deal?
I mean, I wish he really forced his way onto the power play and stayed there and was an asset, a good playmaker. I would like to see him shoot and score more, just straight up beat the goalie, have the confidence to just go for it. He strikes me as a player who's doing more of the right things, especially for Tortorella, for considering his play style. And he'll throw in the occasional fancy move, but he doesn't really take over games, and it's that to me is a definite step up. That combined with the power play prowess, like a guy who really surprise you with his points. It's like, I can't believe he had that many points. And you see the like power play points, or a good chunk of them are. And it's like, man, that's really an asset. Like we need that. We got to keep that. Like I would be all for signing a guy like that. He feels very opportunistic. There's definitely talent there, but that doesn't mean he can put it all together. I could say he's put it all together, get him locked up. Like I want to see you. I can still say consistency at this point, even though he's pretty consistent towards the end of the year for a bit, because his track record doesn't show that. So there's a jump. I'm not saying he needs to do all that at once, but like he's got to check a few more boxes for me to really jump in and be like, all right, $5 million for 5 years, let's go.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Trev, how about you?
Yeah, pretty similar thoughts. I mean, the guy's been a pro for. Has it been since 2019? Does that sound right?
Yep.
He turned pro.
Mm-hmm.
And like he's just now breaking in and establishing himself as an NHL player. And even in that case, it's like, well, he had a really strong last 3 months of the year or so. Outside of that, it's just been a roller coaster, up and down and up and down and up and down. And like I've been pretty vocal. Like I don't think the coaching staff was doing him many favors, but he, at the same time, he really wasn't playing well to deserve that ice time. And then you go back to the chicken or the egg, or do we just give this guy good line mates and good ice time and see if he produces, or should we play him on the fourth line with a couple of muckers and see if he deserves more? Like the old coaching staff kind of chose the latter of that, and I never really agreed with that, but kind of middling out here, like I don't know, to answer your question, like you kind of go back and watch him in juniors. Like one of his strengths was skating the puck up the ice, making plays off the rush. We don't see that at all. In fact, he kind of turns the puck over a lot when he's skating through the neutral zone, kind of like what Provorov's had that issue the last couple of years. I think Frost has that issue in his game as well, and I don't really understand why, because we saw it in juniors. That was one of his strengths, and you kind of just like watch him in practice. Like his hands are silky smooth. Like this guy has all the skill in the world. Like what? I don't understand that. Kind of like what Jack said. I think this guy should be able to like really be a strong power play contributor, and power plays had a lot of issues for years. One of probably the biggest is the zone entries, like I just talked about, and that's a little bit on him.
Yep. Totally agree.
Like, I don't know, just kind of going back to your main question, I think it is, we haven't seen enough from him. He's been a pro for X amount of years, and we saw him play well for just a couple months. Like, I don't know, I guess you could go back to when he first got called up. He played well for the first couple of weeks, and then went down to the third line, then went down to the fourth line, then he was back with the Phantoms, got a quick call up, couldn't stick. I don't know. I really like Morgan Frost, and I think he's going to do good things here for a long time. But as far as a contract goes, I would have been more comfortable going York or Cates longer term, just because I think both of those guys have much higher ceiling. Or no, excuse me. I think York and Cates have higher floors than Frost does.
Yeah, there's still a lot of bust potential with Frost, depending on as things go. There's all the reason in the world to, like, you can't dismiss that based on what we've seen. When I think of Morgan Frost, I don't think of a guy who seized an opportunity. I don't think of a guy who showed, it's my time. I think the team was really bad. He had opportunity because nobody better was there to play. It took multiple chances, and he got a little hot. I mean, that may be all it takes. I don't know how the origin story for great players starts. I'm just saying nothing that I've seen makes me believe he has arrived and it's time to lock him up. Like, I don't see that. If the power play's dying for anybody out there to do anything. If he were to like be a contributor like that, I'd be like, there you go. That's opportunity. He sees that. It's clearly there. He's been brought up in the past multiple times. Always has trouble sticking. This is his first like good run. That's great. That's wonderful. That's not you got to show me more than that. Like, come on. Like, I feel like more and more people see the littlest sample size and just want to buy in. And to me, this is not a guy you do that with. because this is what he does. If he doesn't put up these points, he doesn't offer a whole lot else. Like in Cates' situation, where at least he's very good defensively. Like Frost is an offensive guy. I'm told he's an offensive guy. So I want to see that toilet seat up.
I actually think he's a little bit better defensively. At least he was this year than people give him credit for.
And I'm not saying he's not, but it's replaceable. It's not like
Right, yeah.
where you really like earn an NHL roster spot because of your defensive prowess.
Yep,
He's
I
not
agree with that.
inept, but like for what the money we're putting in you, like you better be really good at one of these things or the others, or a hell of a hockey player. And there's not enough on both ends for him to really not do anything offensively.
It'll be interesting to see what he gets. But, yeah, I mean, where do the Flyers struggle? They struggle mightily on the power play, and they have a lot of trouble getting the puck into the offensive zone. Morgan Frost was responsible for a lot of that last year. So maybe that's something that he builds on and grows. And obviously, I have a hard time. If you're coming into a negotiation like, oh, well, he's going to get better at that. All right, well, then I'll pay him when he's better. But you need to see a little bit of that first because, I mean, there's a lot of like 46-point, 19-goal guys are kind of a dime a dozen around the NHL, So you need to see, I think, a little bit more from Morgan Frost. So I agree with you guys. I'll keep my answer short there. We do have a comment here I'll read from our buddy Cards88. Thanks for hanging out with us once again. The problem with signing him long-term isn't really about his points, in my opinion. It's that he hasn't had multiple years of success in a row, and I think that's very fair to say. Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to try to quickly look up how many games plays he has and like his total points. And we know that those points, the majority of those points came in a pretty small sample size, all things considered. And he's constantly played for a pretty rough team. You need a bridge deal to get those other years that we're talking about. And I feel like it's a given. I don't see anything on either side to suggest like, we'll lock him up now, or Frost saying it's time for me to get paid. Like neither one of those scenarios enter my head when I see the course of his career. He is bridge deal material to a T. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what the issue is, but it doesn't seem to me like he should be making an awful lot of money. So 2 years, whatever. And I just don't see why certain people are quick to jump on Frost, of all people, with such potential to get screwed. And then you're buying somebody else out and just prolonging things.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to Ted E. Dangerously. I hate to say it, but he's always injured. Gain muscle, so you're more durable. Go Flyers. Yeah, I think he's figuring that out a little bit. He played 81 of 82 games last year. He looks a little bigger, at least in person. Whereas
his
before,
legs are actually huge.
Yeah. Before we'd hear a lot about the working out, and he looked like maybe 160 pounds soaking wet. He for sure put on muscle last season. Maybe he's grown into his man body a little bit there, which will help him going forward. So good point, Teddy. All right, Jonathan Nesbitt here. I think Frost is a bit soft. Not a guy you will win with. He was a great junior player, but just might be one of those guys who doesn't pan out in the NHL. And we'll see. We'll see. Give him the bridge deal. Give him a couple years to prove that the second half of this season wasn't a fluke. And we'll see going forward. Oakham's Razor checking in. What's up, gents? Oakham, thanks for hanging out as always.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so we have a couple fun topics we want to get to here. Did you guys do any of these? Did you look up your top 5 Claudes? Didn't have to be limited to the NHL. Obviously, we're a hockey podcast, so if you could find as many top 5 Claudes in the NHL, that'd be ideal. But open to interpretation a little bit. Obviously, this is after Claude Giroux, so I expect him to be in both of your top 5s. Will he be in mine? I don't know. We'll have to see. If you're following along in the comments, or if you're watching live, drop your top 5 Claudes. I'm interested to see who we come up with here, because I think we're a little limited, more limited than I thought when I browsed the NHL Claude names. Did you guys do these?
Hell yeah.
I think we all have a similar list.
All right. Who wants to start here? At number 5, let's go down. Let's go 5 to 1.
I'll go. Number 5, I have my childhood babysitter's husband. His name was Claude.
Why is he on your list?
I went. Her name was Wanda. I went from her from preschool to 3rd grade, and her husband's name was Claude. He's number 5 on my list.
Why?
He's a legend.
All right.
He's the only guy I actually know named Claude besides G Money.
Well said. All right. Jack, who you got at number 5?
I have Claude LaRose. It was somebody I looked up. He looks like he played in the 60s or 40s. I might have confused him with the other guy. I really don't know. And he did play hockey, and his name is Claude. So that's why he's at the bottom of my list.
All right. Real quick, good point here from Carts back on the Frost topic. We'll kind of jump back and forth if we get some of the comments from our older topics, and then we'll get back to our top 5s. Carts 88 says, I think Frost is going to have a similar path as Braden Shen contract-wise. Similar point totals in the first 4 years. Shen was bridged 2 by 2.5 and then signed to 4 by 5.15. It's funny because, yeah, maybe the point totals are similar, but the player style is a lot different, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
So we'll have to see there because I'm not sure. Like, if you look at Morgan Frost outside of his point scoring, what is he known for? You know,
I love that he labeled a player that he was traded for. Technically, that's great. Yeah.
There you go. Interesting. Oakham's Razor. Travis to me could pass as connecting his little brother. Am I the only one who sees that? We should have did a top 5 Travises. We'll do that next time.
It would have been a lot easier.
Must be the hair and the patchy facial hair.
There you go.
And you can't score in the playoffs.
And he nonstop chirps me in the group chat.
Yep. That's where I get it from, my older brother.
All right, so number 5. I'm going to go Claude Lapointe for no reason. Yeah, he was a ball guy. His name was Claude. Played for the Flyers for a little bit. What?
I like that one, actually. I don't know why he didn't appear in my viewing.
Hang
I
on.
don't have Claude Lapointe. As soon as you said his name, I totally remembered him.
Because Claude had a pretty lengthy NHL career as well, I
Mhm.
think. Yes, he did. Total of 879 games, 305 points, played 56 games with the Flyers, 2 games with the Phantoms. That was his last NHL team. Scored 7 goals for the Flyers and finished his Flyer career with 12 points. But did have a lengthy career, played with the Islanders for a long time, from 96 to 2002, 2003. Played a season with the Avalanche, season with the Flames, and 5 seasons with the Quebec Nordiques. Claude Lapointe, my number 5, Claude.
That's a
Who
good.
do you guys have at number 4?
I got Claude Lemieux.
Oh, man,
On
he's
the-
down on your list.
Number
Yeah,
4.
You know, he might be a little higher on your guys' list. Not a big fan of Claude Lemieux. Not a big fan of his son, but put up some good points in the NHL, so he belongs on the list.
You weren't a Brendan Lemieux fan? Guy played his ass off here. I don't know how he didn't get a contract.
I'll keep my
bridge. He wanted to lock up long term. Flyers
Sorry.
can do it.
All right. Claude Lemieux, 4th on Travis's list. Strong disagree with that, but Jack, who do you got at number 4?
Love the name. Hate the location. Number 3, I got Claude Julien. Yes, the old coach.
Fred Flintstone himself. Or Barney Rubble. He looks like one of those guys, though, doesn't he?
Combination of both.
Did he win a cup with the Bruins? He
Yeah,
did, right?
2011.
2011. How about that? And he was in Montreal for a couple years afterwards, wasn't he?
He had like a heart attack on the bench, and it
He
was
did.
out for a while. And then,
Before
like,
COVID.
I think they let him go after shortly, like not because of that, but like shortly after that.
Yeah, he didn't need the I digress. Yeah, so it was with the Bruins from 2007. He's with them for about 10 seasons. They were all right, so they were only 3 games over 500 when they fired him, so I guess things were starting to go south there. But went to Montreal, Did he take them to the Cup that year? Or was that somebody? That was St. Louis. Remember then the
It
bubble?
wasn't even that. Who the hell was it? Did they re-sign that coach? And he put Cole Caulfield in the third line and killed his points.
Yeah, it was the assistant.
The French guy, right?
Yeah.
He had a French name, I think.
Oh God, it's killing me.
I could see his face. He had like the hair. Like I can't remember. Began with a D, maybe.
Or a C, like Char or Shane, or I gotta look it up.
Yeah, all right. Maybe
someone look it up because now I'm curious. I forget it as well.
All right, number 4, Claude. Claude Julien and Claude Lemieux are strong number 4s. I'm going to go, who did I have on my number 4 list here?
I don't know. Who is it?
Claude. How about John Claude Bergeron?
Oh.
You know who that is?
No.
He was a goalie. He played a total of 72 games in the NHL. Played with Montreal, Tampa Bay, and the Los Angeles Kings. Yeah, I don't remember Jean-Claude Bergeron, but good enough for number 4 on my list of Claudes.
I don't know where the hell you found that.
I had to pull something different out because I didn't want us to have all the same Claudes.
It's Dominique
Ducharme.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's it.
Yeah, I got I said C, but you see Charm. Come on.
Yeah, there's a C in there.
Maybe there's another Claude on this list.
All right, who's got number 3 queued up?
Claude Julien's on this list twice. Does that count?
Oh,
yeah, sure.
One's his father, maybe.
No, apparently he coached a team in 03 to 06 as well, Montreal.
So number 3, I got Claude Julien.
There you go.
I always thought this guy was a really good coach. I actually used to like him when he was with the Bruins for some reason. I guess just because I thought he was a good coach. Won a cup. He was kind of part of the 2010 collapse against Philly. So
yes,
he deserved some points in that. He gave me a great memory as a child, great memory as a Flyers fan. I think we can all say that was one of the highlights of the last 13 years, definitely up there. He was part of that. Thanks.
It was our Stanley Cup.
Right. Ended up sweeping us the next year, wins a cup. But I always thought he was a really good coach. So he's number 3 on my list.
All right. Jack, who you got number 3?
I've just found him on this list of Montreal Canadiens coaches. Claude Ruel. Ruel. He coached the Canadiens from 68 to 70. Well, that's head coach, by the way, not assistant. Whoa!
Ooh.
Look at that beauty.
Who's that legend?
That's Claude Julien, young Claude.
Holy crap!
I thought you found the guy I was talking about for a second. I was like, "There's no way."
No, sorry.
No, don't be sorry. So, yep, my list is almost done. I got one left.
All right. Yeah, I got Claude Julien as my 3rd Claude too. I'm sorry. No, I don't. I have Claude Lemieux as my 3rd Claude. Hated him growing up, and that's because he was a good player and played his role really well. Just an asshole out on the ice, and I like those kind of players. I like watching them. Now, if he was on the Flyers, we would have loved him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he spent a long time, playing with the. Let me look that up before I say it, because I remember him with the Devils for a while, but was he actually with them for a long time?
With who? I'm sorry.
The Avalanche, Coyotes. He bounced around.
He was all over, man.
Okay, yeah, he was with the Devils for 5 seasons, but seemed like forever. He was with the Devils from 1990 to 1995. Had a couple 30-goal seasons, a 41-goal season with the Devils. Spent time with Montreal before that, 5 years. And then, the Avalanche for another 5 years, where he had some of those iconic playoff series.
Against the Red Wings.
Yep. Who did he win the Conn Smythe with? Was it Colorado or New Jersey?
I would have.
I don't remember. And
I'll be surprised if it was Colorado. There was just so many good players on those teams.
Yeah.
Darren McCarty used to own him back in the day.
Dude, those
D-Mac,
are
baby.
some wars, man. Did you guys have you guys watched that documentary that came out? I don't remember what it was called, but it was about the Avalanche and the Red Wing rivalry back then. And one of our guests, Adrian Dater, was actually in it. So it was a good documentary. I don't know if it was a 30 for 30 or not, but it was Darren McCarty was in it. He was on our show. Mentioned Dater was on. He's on our show last year. I think it's on ESPN still somewhere. You kind of got to dig around like ESPN Plus or something. But if you need something to watch later on, if you're not watching Shark Week, I recommend it. But those were the days, right? Like you had the Dallas Stars with Mike Modano. The Avalanche were loaded. The Red Wings were loaded. And who's
was dragging Buffalo to the finals all by himself?
Exactly. Brett Hall with the Stars. Exactly, man. Wasn't there one more team? Avalanche.
Who have you named so far?
Flyers.
Yeah, I mean they were. The Flyers were always in the mix. Later was like Tampa. That was like 04. So during those like late 90s, 2000s, you said Detroit, Colorado, Dallas.
There was one more team with
Devils.
those three, wasn't it, or no?
Devils, Buffalo,
Devils
the
were always
Flyers. I know that Washington went to the Cup once. That was like a lightning in a bottle, though. I mean, we would play Pittsburgh and then Toronto a lot in the playoffs. I can't think of anybody in the West that was like really knocking on the door.
Was it St. Louis?
The Ducks, that's good, but I feel like they broke through a little bit later.
I don't think it was the Kraken.
Oh, man. So I was just watching a documentary about Korea and Solani. That's another one you guys got to watch. I think it was.
They were the Ducks, baby.
Yeah, and that's how they kind of based the show off. They were like the first sports franchise to ever get their like team name from a movie or Disney movie or something like that. But I think you just forget how great Solani and Korea together were. Like those two together were like magic. And I think, we were a little younger and primarily
I wasn't born.
We watched the Flyers. Travis wasn't born.
Yeah.
So, and the Ducks being on the West Coast, like obviously we knew Korea and Solani were great, but I think until you go back and watch, or at least, someone like me, until I went back and watched, it was holy crap, man. These guys were on another level and two great guys. You just wanted to see them succeed. I think Korea was somewhere else when the Ducks finally won their Stanley Cup. Solani was back with the Ducks. But yeah, you have a comment here. Korea was ridiculous. He was, man.
Well, he was the highest rated like college player for the longest time. He still might even have like some record or something. Like he was, I mean, I'm sure the talent wasn't as good for him to play against, but he put up video game numbers in college. And and it was funny is most people think that because of Solani that the Winnipeg Jets became the Ducks, and that's not what happened. Like a lot of people think that. Like, no, they're the Arizona now. The Ducks are their own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. I mean, I remember going to a game when I was in like '96 or something. I can't remember around that time, and they played the Ducks and they lost 2-0, and it was Korea to Solani, and the second goal was Solani to Korea. You know what I mean? Like, it's like wow, they just. Lindros and the Legion of Doom just lost. Like it didn't even look good, like that. But they were never like they could never get over. I always like kind of cheered for that team. One, it was the Ducks, and I loved the movie as a kid. But two, I'm like, man, they got some superstar talent there. They just got nothing else.
So I think it was last week, maybe, and we got a comment from Colin Newby on Twitter. He appreciated the Vinny Damphousse and the Hall of Fame talk. I think he just appreciated that we were talking about Vinny Damphousse on a podcast in July.
Wait, who liked that?
Colin Newby.
No,
we had him on the show before. Yeah. Good guy.
Yeah.
But Paul Kariya, is Paul Kariya in the Hockey Hall of Fame, the NHL Hall of Fame? Do you guys know off the top of your... See, that's one of those guys where I maybe just assume that he's in 989 points in 989 games exactly. 50-goal season in 95, a couple 40-goal seasons, a couple 100-point seasons. Yeah,
nice.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's one of those guys though where I'd wonder, is he in the Hockey Hall of Fame? And I guess
I honestly didn't know. I mean, I tell you, I see a list of guys. I'm like, I think how are some of them not already in?
Yep. only played in 46 career playoff games. Yeah, that's unfortunate. He played for the Colorado Avalanche for a season, the Nashville Predators for 2, and that's a team that I forgot that he played for in Nashville, and played 3 seasons with the St. Louis Blues. Tell me if you remember that.
Barely, but yes.
Yeah.
That's actually like really the only time I've ever seen him.
Oh, wow.
Like obviously I saw the highlights with the Ducks, but the only time I've ever seen him play was with St. Louis.
Oh, wow. Is that when they had Pavel Dimitra?
Oh, yeah, Pavel Dimitra, yeah.
Hey, rest in peace.
I was going to say, didn't he pass away? He was in a plane crash.
The Flyers defenseman, former Flyer, was it Brad?
McCrimmon, yeah.
McCrimmon. No, it was not Marsh.
Team.
Yep, that's right. That was Locomotive?
I believe so, right?
Oh, wow.
Over in the KHL.
Yeah, I got to go back. It's been a little while.
Huh.
Certain players you just associate with certain teams. That was Pavel Dimitra for me for a while. After Hull got traded out of there and Prager moved on.
I liked him a lot, actually, Dimitra.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he was good.
He is not in the Hall of Fame.
Fellow Baldy.
Steve Ott.
What's that?
I'm just kidding. So you look like Steve Ott.
Steve Ott.
There's a blue for you.
That's rough.
Couple comments here, and then we'll get to the rest of our Claude list. From Into Deep 941. Ducks always made the playoffs, lost in 03, 06 conference finals, won cup in 07. Korea was with Nashville. Yep. And as I mentioned, there was some kind of I think it actually was a 30 for 30 on ESPN. If you haven't seen it and you need something to watch, you're missing out. You're missing hockey in the middle of July. Go check it out. It's a pretty good little documentary. So, all right, let's get to number 2 on our Claude's list. Jack, who do you got?
That's where I have Claude Lemieux, number 2.
Okay. Trav, who you got at number 2?
I have the legend, Claude Monet.
Claude Monet. I know
one
that
of
name.
the most famous painters of all time. He was known. Right. He always liked doing the lily pads in the lakes and the ponds.
The lily pads.
See, this is what I like right here. This is the kind of outside the box thinking we need on this show here.
Oh my
That's
God!
Good stuff.
I never even went that way.
Claude Monet.
I saw that on an episode of Pawn Stars, and it was like a trees on a lake. Seriously, that was the painting.
I mean, he might be the most famous painter ever besides Van Gogh.
Wow.
You want to start that debate? You want to start a painter's debate?
Yeah, let's do it. Whoever the Italian was.
Look, if you weren't named after a Ninja Turtle isn't named after you, you couldn't have been that popular.
Hang on, I'm trying to get Claude Monet up here.
Uh-oh. Jeez.
Apparently Wikipedia is strict with.
Well, can I say Jean-Claude Van Damme then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me put it in the chat. So there's my number 3 because I didn't give you a number 3.
Hey, you said Claude Lemieux. Oh, you didn't give a number 3.
2.
You didn't give a number 3, Jack? I'm sorry. I skipped it.
I'm all over the place. I'm sorry.
I asked for a top 5, and then I'm skipping your list.
Travis started bringing in ringers. I didn't realize we could,
Claude Monet, ladies and gentlemen.
Legend.
Claude Julien. Great facial hair on both Claudes. All right, here we go. Claude Monet and Jean-Claude Van Damme we had.
There we go. Snuck them in.
Very good. I'm going to go wait, we got comments here. No Jean-Claude. There you go. Yeah. So what's this from Teddy real quick? Ant Sanfilippo was saying expect the 2018 Canada team to come out Friday. If Hart isn't involved, what Canadian team do you think we trade him to?
So we say all of them. Can I say all of them?
Yeah.
I can make a case for each and every one.
We were speculating on that yesterday. So that was part of the reason why we didn't record last night. Was because we wanted to give a couple days to see if anything came out with Hockey Canada and see if Morgan Frost would sign a deal, but obviously that didn't happen. But I guess Friday makes the most sense, right, Trav? I mean, you had a pretty good point when we were talking about this yesterday. You want to give your reasoning for that?
Yeah, I was wondering if it comes out Friday as well, just because, it's NFL training camp this week and the average sports fan, their eyes might be pointed towards football. And obviously the hockey fans, the hockey diehards, like this is going to be huge news too. But maybe the league's hoping, maybe the average sports fan just going to not even click on it when it pops up on their phone. I don't know. I think that's kind of stupid, but at the same time, I kind of think that's how the league thinks and operates. I don't know. It was a thought I had.
No, you're probably bang on right there. I mean, you come out, bad news usually breaks Friday, and it'll break, probably right after the workday when everyone's on their way home.
Exactly.
So nobody really hears about it. But yeah, I mean, we speculated on this in past shows. We don't know anything for sure, and at least nothing that we're going to say during the podcast. But I've said many times, if you're into connecting dots and trying to figure things out on your own, I think there are dots out there to connect. Will anything happen? We'll see. For, like we said on past shows, for the victim's sake, for Carter Hart's sake, we hope that he wasn't involved. But we'll see. Yeah, we would agree with Anthony that the news will probably break Friday. Okay. Our number one Claudes on everybody's list. Travis, we don't even have to ask this one, I don't think, unless you're going to throw a massive curveball. Number one on your top 5 list of Claudes.
I'm taking that guy right over your right-hand shoulder, the legend G-Money, Claude Giroux. Ain't nothing but a G-thing. Great flyer, one of the greatest flyers ever.
That is Claude Giroux, isn't it?
It is. Legend, one of the greatest flyers ever. Top 3 favorite player of mine all time. A lot of great memories. Hope he's doing well.
So here's a question. So Trav, you didn't really get to watch Lindros growing up, right?
Correct.
Jack, do you think so? Like, I'll speak from my perspective, and then I'll ask. Like, as we've gotten older, like Eric Lindros growing up was like larger than life to us, right? Like he was the Flyers kind of thing. I mean, obviously everyone liked John LeClair as well. You know what I mean? But Eric Lindros was just the franchise. I'm curious to hear, like, because I want to ask Travis this question next. Did you view Claude Giroux the same way as you saw Eric Lindros growing up, or do you think that changes as we get older? Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you asked Trav. I misheard you. Even though he wasn't alive to watch Lindros, so excuse me. I just misheard you. So it's a great question, and I was hoping you asked me because with Lindros was up there for me with like Batman. It was off the pages, next level, and a lot of that had to do with how good the team was. I'm not gonna lie. Like he was. And the fact that they're like, this guy could be better than Gretzky. Like they did legitimately say that. And it just, to have a player like that on your team, to have like LeBron on your team, it was insanity, and it showed, and the team got better and better. And all of a sudden they're in the Stanley Cup and they were good every year. And it was a phenomenal time to be a Flyers fan. It's why I can never be swayed no matter how bad this team is. I'm going to stick it out because that's how good that is the golden era to me. I know they never won it, but they were always right there. And it's a perfect comment. Like it's had a lot to do with it. Or unfortunately with Giroux, all the talent in the world, but the success wasn't there. And that'll always, and it's not his fault, but it'll always be something that like I'll never forget. It was a bad era of hockey. So the difference, that's the biggest difference between the two of them. I know there's a lot of differences with the cap and what you can do and can't do, but at the end of the day, he was a superstar in every sense, and the team was dominant.
Okay. Yeah, good answer. Now, Trav, now I'm interested to hear Claude Giroux for you growing up, because he was obviously with the Flyers while you were a kid, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, how did you see Claude Giroux? Was he bigger than life for you, or how did you see him? Because like Jack just said, for Lindros, he was the Flyers, made you fall in love with the team. Did Giroux do that for you?
So, well, to be honest, Danny Briere was probably the reason I fell in love with the team. He's my favorite player ever.
Okay.
I don't know. Like I started getting into the Flyers in 2007, which is right around when he came up. So like I don't really know Flyers hockey without him, which is kind of weird. Like you just talked about Lindros. The only time I've ever seen Lindros play besides YouTube highlights was alumni games. I think he finished in 2006 or 2007. So maybe I watched him play when I really didn't even care about hockey. Like I don't remember it. Yeah, like G, kind of like what Jack said, like this guy had all the talent in the world and it sucked. But like I like to remember the 2010, the 2011, 2012, like when the Flyers were good and the goal against the Blackhawks in overtime, game 3, the shift against Pittsburgh in game 6. He scored a crazy goal against the Sabres in 2011, beat 4 guys, sniped one far side on Miller. Like that's what I like to remember him as. But to answer your question, I don't know. Like I'm a sports diehard, Flyers diehard. Did I see him larger than life though? I don't know. I got 2 of his jerseys to my right. I don't know. Very, very, very big fan. Top 3 favorite player of all time. I'll say that.
All right. I think that's fair. Yeah, I was just curious because I didn't I attributed it to me getting older to where I didn't see Claude Giroux in the same way that I saw Eric Lindros. And obviously when you're a kid, it's like, these guys are your heroes when you're a kid. And as you get older, you're kind of like, well, these are just regular people. They're just very good at a sport.
To be completely honest, yes. Like I did think of him like that.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't a regular person. Like he was like the GOAT. Like, Claude Giroux could do no wrong. Like you loved that guy.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was getting at. Like when I would watch Eric Lindros, you would defend him to the death, whatever it was. If anyone had anything negative to say about Lindros, they were wrong. Even if they were right, you were going to defend him. He was a saint, blah, blah, kind of like that. So
it took me a couple minutes to think about it, but yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I will add, and this is kind of to the defense of Giroux in a sense. When I was growing up, it was the coverage that we had on like the team was always top notch, but like with the players and how they interacted with every little thing, like the Twitter and online forums and things like that were not nearly as big, especially in the 90s. The friggin' internet was barely even out. Like you could not rag on players over and over again and get every little detail of their life back then like you can today. Mm-hmm. And that could kind of give you a sour taste on certain players when things aren't going so good. There's stuff that's come out after the fact about Lindros that I think if we knew while he was playing, although winning cures a lot of that, it would have been like, so I think Giroux gets an awful lot of hate because of that, just based on how the locker room was, things that weren't necessarily in his control, but he is the captain, and just how polarizing the position is now compared to how it used to be in the sense of people getting their opinions out and, persuading people and talking about things at ridiculous length. For sure.
Our buddy Dan weighing in. Lindros revolutionized the sport. He was feared. Yep, absolutely was. Still, when I think of Lindros, unfortunately, the first memory that comes up is the last one. Scott Stevens essentially ending his Flyers career. And I could still feel the emotion of when that happened, the shock of, oh my God, that's it. Like he's not going to play for the Flyers ever again. It's just interesting. So I was curious to hear your guys' perspective. And, obviously Travis, because I don't have those same feelings for Claude Giroux. And I don't know if it was that I didn't appreciate the player. Maybe it has something to do with what Jack was saying. The Flyers were bad for most of his time here. So when I think Giroux, I think of the Flyers were not good while Giroux was here. So I don't know. And maybe that's unfortunate because he was a very, very, very good player. So I was curious. I just wanted to know. We are just a little bit over an hour left. I'm sorry, we're over an hour into the show. We didn't think we were going to hit an hour tonight. I didn't think I was going to make an hour for reasons I will not say on the show. Jack,
Yeah.
your number one, Claude.
It's G Money, baby. I almost went with a White Claude, but I'm going to stick with G Money. It's hard not to choose him. When he was with that 2010 team and they were doing their things and you saw the talent that he had and how he was playing, it was like the sky's the limit for this team. I don't know. I'm hoping Michkov makes me as high on this team as I was then, because it really felt like they were just going to take off into the stratosphere. They had so much talent coming, and this guy, 22nd overall pick, like nobody expected anything of him. They weren't even supposed to draft him. Clark forgot his name, and he turns into your captain, and he's an absolute stud. And yeah, I mean, I understand why he's held in the regard as he is outside of the points as well. We really thought we were on, and it's not his fault. Different era, but like, yeah, we really thought he was going to take us to the promised land, and
Yeah,
it is what it is. But
unfortunate.
He's still number one, Claude.
Yeah, that's for sure. Number one in our top five, and number one in our hearts, I guess. So one more comment from Teddy Dangerously. I think I'm the same age as you guys. Gagne is my favorite. He was so clutch. Overtime goals, was huge in the playoffs. Michkov could become our new top flyer. Yeah.
I think he's been their most anticipated pick since probably Lindros.
Yeah.
The prospect, you could say.
I was going to say, the crazy part of that is, Lindros wasn't even a Flyers pick. They had to trade for him.
That comment is dead on, though. You needed a big goal. Simone Gagne was always right there.
He was, man.
Oh, man,
So sometimes I think it's weird to say because he was one of my favorite players on that team, but is he a player that, well, I'll speak for myself. I may have taken him for granted while he was here. Not that I ever hated on him, but he was he didn't just score goals. He was a very good defensive player as well, Simone Gagne. Very smart player. Yeah, just a good guy too. You could put him on any line and he wouldn't be out of place. But when they finally had the opportunity to match him up with Forsberg, oh my God.
Well, you know what I loved about him, and unfortunately he got a little criticism from me at times, but he was the player that branched like the Lindros, the Legion of Doom, and the Roenick Primo team to the Richards Carter team. Like, he was the steady guy. He even had that little, bump with Forsberg, which was wonderful. And because of that, he became and I remember his rookie year, he came in second in voting to Scott Gomez, and I was almost in tears. I was furious. I was
Scott
like,
Gomez.
Yeah, I know, right? You think of where those players' careers went, like, come on. And he, by the time the team did get to the cup, he wasn't like always on the top line. They obviously leaned on some other guys, but he was the definition of clutch. That Boston series alone, I mean, he scored 2 massive goals off the top of my head. They could have lost that. They could have been swept that year, but he scored to keep that series alive after coming back from injury. Mm-hmm. And then I think he put the team ahead in Game 7, which eventually beat them. Like, he was an absolute monster. Like, I underrated him because I wanted him to take that next step and make them as dominant as they were in the 90s. While they were good, they weren't always, like a top team. They were never really challenging for the President's Trophy, like they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. So I think he caught a little criticism for that. But when the team needed a big goal, like you guys were saying, we just named a couple. I mean, he even scored a big goal against Tampa. Like, he bridged that gap. He played with both of those players I grew up with. And he's another one, man. I don't know how we got on Gagne, but I love it.
He is only 43 years old, and he retired or stopped playing back in 2014-15, which would have made him around 34, 35 years old.
His dad passed away his last year with the Bruins.
Okay. And he was only playing maybe a quarter of a season for the 4 years previously. So after he turned 30, things went kind of downhill for him quick. Do you guys remember why? Did he have concussion issues or something?
Yes. So,
is that what it was?
Yeah, he I remember him getting hit, and it was like a really weak looking hit, and he was out with a concussion for a while. Like, and I was just like, oh no, I hope he's not like injured. And then he just always seemed to have issues after that.
I remember he had a concussion and a broken foot in 2010. Traded him away to Tampa for Matt Walker and a 4th. Not a great trade. Even if you're just trying to get rid of the salary, it's a bad trade.
I remember that. I remember like thinking we were gonna get something for him and seeing that trade being like furious.
I think Matt Walker played 8 games for the Flyers.
Jimmy confuses him with new, and I love that
Sean.
you did it. I love that you did that because I thought that popped in my head too. I see Sean and I just think of it.
Another Walker.
Yeah, and you're trading away like.
I forget what injury he had in Tampa, but he missed time there, and then he signed in
went to Kings after
LA,
that, right?
Yes. So then him and Richards were together, and he had a concussion that year, and he missed a long time. I think he came back in the Cup final from a concussion. He came back in the middle of that series.
Got his name on the cup. Good for him.
And then
circumventing the cap. No.
I guess because of that, right? Like he wasn't around most of the year, so like he wasn't one of Daryl's guys. So the next season, that was the season that started late due to a lockout. He wasn't in the lineup. Ends up getting traded back to Philly. I mean, he really didn't have a big role with the team, maybe third line. And then that's when Holmgren was like, "Oh yeah, we'll resign you. Just we have to free up cap," and then kind of screwed him over. Never actually signed him. I don't have the stats in front of me. Did Gags play that year?
What year was this, Trav? I got him in front of me.
13-14.
I guess he went to the Boston after that.
No, he didn't.
He didn't play at all. Oh, geez.
Missed the whole year because Homer pretty much screwed him, to be honest.
I heard that too. It's exactly what happened. Like I remember being like, I forget who they were holding out for, but he's like, "Yeah, I'll sign you." And then Gagne waited. I don't know if he had other offers. You got to figure he had something. Passed, waited, and
that wasn't the Yager year, was it?
I
Nah.
don't think
they had to free up cap. They had to trade one of their defensemen, and I don't think they ever did. Yags was 11-12.
Yeah, a couple years before.
And then he signed a tryout with Boston. Ville Leno signed a tryout with Boston that year as well. And then they ended up signing Gags, played on the fourth line. Dad passed away and then retired.
Wow.
Yeah, he's not underrated at all, actually. I was going to say underrated Flyer, but no, he's beloved.
Oh.
All right. So last question here before we wrap up. Let's do it pretty quick because I think the answer
I got a little idea for a segment after we're done this.
Okay. So quick question from Oakham here. Who becomes a Flyer head coach first, Rod Brindamore or Simon Gagne? And Gagne should be a legit candidate here.
My vote goes to Craig Berube.
Get out,
you
really.
win. I think it'll be Gagne because I think Brindamore is going to be pretty much untouchable in Carolina.
Yeah, I could see that. Danny and Gags, I think we're really close.
I think who's the head coach for the Bengals for years? Marvin Lewis. Yep. I think Brindamore is going to be the Marvin Lewis of Carolina, except for he's a really good coach.
He's actually a good coach.
Yeah. That's how that team is run. Like he might as well have stock in the team.
This is interesting because Simon Gagne was just named the new GM of the Quebec Remparts this offseason.
GM?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a front. Oh, yeah. I guess that takes him out of the running completely. Yeah,
I think before that he was assistant coach and assistant GM.
Correct. Yeah, so interesting stuff there. Did somebody hire Patrick Waugh in the NHL? No, right?
I know his name popped up. I don't think he hired yet. Okay.
So I was going to say maybe that's something to follow. Maybe he follows Patrick Waugh. But yeah, it's a good question. I think Brindamore is maybe a Hurricane for life kind of thing. Where's Gagne? I think, who knows? That would be interesting. That'd be fun. All right, Trav, what do you got?
So do you guys do the Immaculate Grids or the Puck Dokus?
I do not, but I saw your text message there. They look fun.
I say we cook one up real quick.
Okay.
And anybody want to?
So what do you do here? You pick a player that played for both teams. You match them up.
Just matches both categories.
Yep.
All right. Who wants to go first? I already got this whole thing figured out.
You go.
Oh, you're nice with it, huh?
So Minnesota and Los Angeles. Let's go Marian Gaborik.
Hey, yo.
Minnesota and Ottawa. Let's go Danny Heatley.
Wow.
Ottawa and Islanders. Let's go Chara. That's kind of an easy one, right? Don't you get more points for it being rare or something?
No, do Alexei
Yeah.
Yashin then.
Okay. Los Angeles and New York. So this is kind of an easier one too. Zygmunt Palffy. Remember him?
Ziggy Palffy.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good. I like that name.
Dallas and Ottawa is sort of a tricky one. You got anybody, Jack, off the top of your head?
Give me a minute.
Who do you got, Trav?
I got stuck on this. There was I do these every night, and this one came up maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was stuck on it for a while. And then if you think about some really good Senators players, they ended their career. Not ended.
I got it.
Did Spezza go there? Spezza went there, right?
Yep.
There you go.
Gonchar did as well.
Yeah, then he went to Toronto. That's
Wow,
why he could
Sergei
say he ended his
Gonchar.
career there.
Gosh.
He ended his meaningful career in Dallas. Actually, he's pretty good with Toronto.
You say Marcel Gotch?
What the
No,
hell?
Gonch.
I thought that's who you said.
What?
Marcel Gotch. Remember that name,
Wow,
Jack?
Yeah, I do. I do remember that name.
All right, so now we need 100 penalty minutes in a single season for
Can I do?
Did we get LA Dallas yet?
L.A.
Oh, LA
Dallas.
We
Well, for some reason, I have Steve Ott in my head because of Jack.
Well, that's my answer for the 100 penalty minutes for Dallas.
I don't think he played for Los Angeles, though.
No. I'm saying for the next category.
Yeah.
L.A. Hold on. Dallas and L.A. Dallas and L.A.
Yeah, I got nothing.
No, we're not giving up. Damn it.
Can't give up.
Hold on. It's gotta pop in there. That's all.
Any goalies go from Dallas to L.A.?
That's what I'm stuck on. No, because there
was a big
they had
time
Bishop
goalie
from-
prospect for Dallas.
Was it
the other
Bishop?
way. No. I'm saying Bishop
Oh.
came from Tampa. Did he go? Did he wind up in LA? Did he?
Did he?
He's got me on the final answer thing. I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank here.
I feel like did Ben Bishop go to? No, I don't want to guess it.
I know he went to Tampa Bay.
Well, he came from Tampa Bay,
Oh,
right?
he came to Tampa from Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
I don't remember him playing for the Kings, though.
I could have been at the very end, and I only
Tie game.
I feel like we're missing an easy one.
Maybe we get a little help in the comments here.
Yeah, come on. We got a Gonch.
You guys
Is
got
there a
it?
time limit on this?
No.
No.
I try to do them as quick as I can. I don't really look at the rarity thing. I just try to do them as quick as I can.
Do you get more points for quickness?
Yeah, it gives you no. I just
Oh.
post them on TikTok and just try to do them as quick as I can.
Well,
They
who'd you
do
put
give
for
you a unique rating afterwards if you get the rare guys.
who'd you put for Dallas, Los Angeles?
I didn't do them yet, but I got two guys in mind.
Yeah, I'll go with Bishop final answer because I want to hear yours.
Jack Campbell was drafted.
Damn
by
it!
Dallas.
Ah,
Yeah, he was highly thought of back then.
Jack Campbell.
Who's your other name?
Bishop.
Daryl Sador?
All right, we got it, Jim. That counts.
Was it Ben Bishop?
It was another one. Yeah.
How about this name? Daryl Sador.
I wouldn't have got that. That's for sure. That's for Sador.
That's before Travis's time.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, I like the older ones.
How about
That's where my head goes.
Sergei Zubov. Did he play for the Kings?
Oh my God, what a name! I don't know if he played for the Kings. I remember him Buffalo, Dallas.
Daryl Sador.
Been around, man. He might. It wouldn't surprise me if he spent a year there.
No, these are fun. Maybe I'll get into these. This is a website, Travis, or do I have to download
Yeah.
TikTok or something?
It's Puckdoku.
Puckdoku. Puckdoku.com. What about the Pims? What are we going for the Pims?
Is Ott an answer for Dallas?
It's got to be one.
Is that a guess?
Yeah, Steve Ott.
Yep.
Woo! Let's go. Minnesota, we going Delorier? Like, come on, are we fucking around
Ooh.
here?
That's a great one.
Put it on the board.
Actually, that's not the guy I thought of. Incorrect.
All right,
Wow, I
then,
never
hold
put
on.
up 100 penalty minutes with them.
Ooh.
Then go.
He only
what's
played
his
like
name?
half a year there.
Oh, yeah, that's
That's probably
true.
why.
I was
let's go-
thinking the Boogeyman.
Wow. That's a great one.
Derek Bugard.
Yeah. That's got to be correct. Did you put it?
That is correct. We went 8 for 9.
That is correct.
Oh, it's my fault. We lost. Did we do the Islanders yet?
No, we ran out of guesses.
Oh,
Okay, wait, how many guesses do you get?
9. You
9?
gotta go. Yeah, you
3,
gotta go
6, 9.
perfect.
Oh,
all right. Well,
shit.
could we just name one to finish it? It's got to be.
I would just pick
Pick
Char
your pick.
again.
Char. How about the Ashman, Aaron Asham?
Oh, yeah.
Big goal.
I hated Asham, but when he played for the
Oh.
Flyers, I liked him.
I loved him. One of my
He
favorites.
scored in Game 5 against Montreal, so I
Yeah.
like,
That
love
silky goal in front.
I think at the time it took the lead. It was like right after the Richards goal, so it was like 1-1. That was beautiful.
Don't you feel like he always like scored when he did score? He scored sick goals.
He had
When he
good
scored-
hands for like
when he
a scored
did.
grinder.
Yeah,
When he scored, I was like, why is he on the ice?
I loved him.
Yeah, no,
He had
I mean,
good
don't get me wrong, I
chemistry
did
with
too,
G
but,
and
like,
JVR that one year.
he did.
I'm like, he played some big games. Like, oh my god! But who's the Matt Martin? Did he do it for the Islanders?
I don't know.
Oh,
'Cause
sorry,
we're
can't put
we're out of guesses. I can't tell until tomorrow. Well, we'll have a new
No.
board tomorrow, so I can't even go back and look.
No.
Matt Martin
Maybe Cal Buttercup.
did have 100 penalty
That was
minutes
the
for
other
the
one I was trying
Islanders.
to think of. He did, Jim?
Yeah, twice. I'm sorry,
Maybe
4 times.
Remember Ryan White broke his nose? It was beautiful.
Oh, that was beautiful. That's what I was thinking. Ross the boss.
Love that.
Alec Boehm walk off.
Seriously?
Let's go.
Home run?
That's a great
No,
way to
single. They
end the
scored 2 in
episode.
the ninth to win it.
Oh, yeah.
They needed
Let's
a win.
go.
Claude LaPointe. I can't believe I forgot that one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we wrap up this show? It's funny because we were like, maybe we'll do like a 45-minute hour show, and here
Every
we are.
time.
Hour and 22 minutes in. I want to thank everybody for hanging out for the episode. We needed you guys tonight,
Yeah.
and you guys came through. Oakham, Dan Knightley, Teddy. Make sure you hang out again. Teddy appreciated you in the comments. I think that's the first time we maybe saw you. Into Deep, Dave, as always. And Carts88. Oh, Jonathan Nesbitt as well. A couple new names in the comment section. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully we see you again next week. That's going to do it for episode 40 of season 5. We'll catch you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Garth Snow.